the Democratic Party rages on. Someone just threw kerosene on this thing, folks. President Trump, well, he is taking sides, and he's siding with Pelosi.
I think Cortez is being very disrespectful to somebody that's been there a long time. I deal with Nancy Pelosi a lot, and we go back and forth, and it's fine. But I think that a group of people is being very disrespectful to her. I'll tell you something about Nancy Pelosi that you know better than I do. She is not a racist, okay? She is not a racist. For them to call her a racist is a disgrace.
Speaking to Fox News last night, a longtime Democratic Congressman William Lacy Clay blasted AOC for her claims of racism against Pelosi, saying it was such a weak argument to say she was being picked on and that 4 women of color were being picked on by the speaker. It tells you the level of ignorance to American history on their part as to what we are as a Democratic caucus. On that note, I want to bring in my political panel, CNUI, Community College of New York distinguished lecturer, Basil Smikle, along with the president of District Media, Beverly Hallberg. All right, this is the Don't Start None Won't Be None segment, Basil, but it started. Yeah. And it's getting hotter and hotter every single day. Yeah. And we're getting some strange political bedfellows. So you've got William, Clay Lacy Clay, and siding with Nancy Pelosi over the upstarts, AOC and the squad. What do you make of it?
As it is with most of life, there's truth on both sides. I don't think Nancy Pelosi's a racist, not by any measure. And she's trying to do this Herculean task of bringing her caucus together, make sure that they're unified. And what she's doing is saying, look, for a lot of the new members that came in, a lot of the progressives, you need to consider some moderation here. And you've seen that happen.
Should she have been tougher with them earlier?
Not necessarily. Look, she almost, there was a lot of conversation that she might not even be speaker, but she was able to get that done.
Right, she got it done, but then it felt like she coddled them, that she overlooked some real clear instances where she should have stepped up and really, either behind closed doors or somewhere else, let them know you crossed the line.
Well, think about it. You talked about the border crisis a couple of segments ago. The House did pass a bill to give the government support, financial support, for what was happening at the border, and it passed without a lot of the provisions that the progressives wanted.
Right.
Now, just very quickly, from AOC's point of view, a lot of her new peers are peers of color, and they are talking about more race-specific policy. So I think that's why she had her back up a little bit on the race issue, but I don't think it was warranted here.
Beverly, how do you view it?
Well, I think it's interesting that sometimes President Trump will call her crazy, Nancy Pelosi that is, and sometimes he wants to side with her. So I think it always serves his purpose when he does. But when it comes to this infight, I do think that when it comes to AOC and her squad, as we're calling them now, it does benefit them, because here's the reason why. They do have a young following. Nancy Pelosi was disparaging of their use of Twitter, but she's very effective on Twitter. Her and President Trump, AOC that is, have a massive following. But at the same time, I do think that this is a battle between the establishment and the Democratic Party and also the newbies. So as you mentioned, you have Representative Clay, who's been in office since 2001, coming in defense of Nancy Pelosi and making 2 points, the race card, which you pointed out, but also this other part where he said you have to have an understanding of how Congress works and you have to learn to work together, especially with people in your own party. So I think this fight is going to continue. I think Nancy Pelosi hoped AOC would back down, but she's not backing down.
Not. And by the way, I tell you, Beverly, I think there's always been something of a mutual admiration society between Pelosi and Trump, and I've seen it on more than one occasion. But I do want to ask you about this, continuing, Basil, to her point. This Justice Democrats, I guess they're the folks behind AOC. Now they're being accused of targeting black lawmakers in primaries. It's getting, the Congressional Black Caucus is asking, why would an ACO-associated organization be trying to get rid of congressional black congresspeople?
Well, black and other Democrats that are actually doing the job that their districts were sending them to do. This came up as well when you had the current chair of the Democratic caucus, Hakeem Jeffries, a friend of mine, also targeted by AOC and others. And
why are they being targeted by AOC?
You know what? I do have a problem with this, because I do think there is truth in that when you're there and you're in Congress and you understand how the institution works, you'll start to, things will start to be different, and you may hear her language be a little different. And the truth is that Hakeem Jeffries has been an outstanding Democrat for New York and for this country. Having said that, I do feel that they need to back off a little bit, because that does not help when you have really good, strong members of Congress now worrying about their job from other Democrats. That hurts us.
Yeah, I do want to ask about the emotional immigration hearing on Capitol Hill today, and the emotions, of course, not just from AOC.
Mr. Chairman, it needs to be noted into record. I spoke to CPB agents, even though they told us not to speak to them too. Remember that? And I said, what do you think we need to do because you guys are overwhelmed? They said, one of them, stop sending money, it's not working.
Well, this issue, of course, going to play out on the campaign trail, but a little differently maybe than we think, folks. Julian Castro blasting Joe Biden for not doing enough to fix our broken policies and for not calling to decriminalize migration. So let me get your thoughts real quick on this, Beverly. You know, I think, ironically enough, that this immigration issue will be a major issue at the Democratic debates, and Biden's going to have to defend whether or not he thinks that this whole thing should be decriminalized.
He has two main problems. One is he has a long voting record. In 1996, he did vote for detention and deportation of immigrants. Of course, the president during his VP time was President Obama, who's known as the deporter-in-chief. So he has that, and at the same time, he is trying to match the far progressive wing of these other Democrats, which may work for the primary, but it's not going to work in the general election. What I would like to see from Democrats, including AOC, who was at that hearing today, I think the emotion is real that we heard, but why not come up with a solution? You had a Green New Deal. Why isn't there a plan by Democrats and Republicans on immigration? That's what they need to do, because it really is a crisis.
We got to leave it there. I wish we could continue the conversation. Good stuff from both of you. Of course, these issues will continue.